Now I have with me to Dr. Ron Dalrymple. He is a filmmaker, author, psychologist, and also the founder of quantum field psychology. It's my pleasure to have Dr. Ron Dalrymple with me to talk with him. People will be interested on what he has to say. How come he became involved in this new field called quantum field psychology?
Rod, I've known you for many, 30 years now? We met, 30 years ago or so? Through our association with, with different metaphysical groups and whatnot. So it's a great pleasure always to see you. Hope you and your family are doing well there in Chile and so forth. It's great to talk. But going back to the history of quantum field psychology, it started back in 1967. I started college at the University of Maryland. I was 17 years old, and I was working at NASA. I got a job at NASA starting in July 67. Very fortunate to pay my own way through college, right? So I was very, very happy to find a job working at NASA in research. I was majoring in math and physics at Maryland. And after 2 years of those classes, I started to take some psychology classes as well, the last semester of my sophomore year and the first semester of my junior year. I was starting to see all kinds of correlations between different psychological theories and various principles of mathematics, higher mathematics especially, and physics, quantum physics. So one night, this is actually in November of 1969, so it shows you I'm pretty ancient, right? I'm walking back into my dorm from NASA. I was working that day. It was a Friday afternoon or evening. I walked back into my dorm. It was a cold, bleary November night in Washington, D.C., Maryland area. It gets really cold and gray there, winds howling outside. So I asked a classic question, can you explain the theories modern day theories of psychology with math and physics? I was hit by a thunderbolt. It's like a tsunami of thoughts and ideas came rushing through my mind. I saw like waves of energy projecting from the mind. And I realized that you could explain thought energy if we think about thought as being independent of the brain. In other words, the brain is not superior to thought, but the other way around, that thought transcends the physical brain. So I started me on a whole new course of life. I told some of the scientists I knew at NASA, which is Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, 7 miles away from Maryland campus. I told some of these guys about the idea, and some said, one guy said, you should go live in California, but one physicist, Dr. Isidore Adler, who's a great guy, he's from City College in New York. In fact, his son, Sam Adler, was a friend of mine from the honors program at Maryland. He was in pre-med. He's now a psychiatrist up in Baltimore. Anyway, Dr. Adler said, I told him about the idea. He says, well, what do you think about if the mind is energy, which transcends the physical brain? He looks at me kind of stunned. He says, you know what? You should go research that. So he spins on his heel and darts down the hallway back into his office. I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. So I spent many, many years doing this. First, I finished at Maryland, got my degree, first undergraduate degree in 1971. I started traveling the world. I went to Europe over the years. I went to Asia, South America, Australia, New Zealand, many fascinating places, Alaska, all over the Caribbean, Central America, looking for answers, studying different cultures, religions, ideas, meeting different people, studying different languages, trying to figure out what this all meant. Did it make sense that the mind is energy? Was there a way to explain that? So after many years of doing this, I decided I really need to go back to graduate school and start putting this whole thing together. So I went to study all the different aspects of psychology to do that. Went back to Maryland in 1980 in grad school, which is a really brutal program, really tough to get into, and very brutal, highly competitive and whatnot. But I wanted to study all the fields, so I did that, got through that in 4 years, and then went out to, first off, do psychotherapy for many years. I saw, by this point, I've seen about 22,000 patients to really analyze them, how the mind works, how the spirit ties into it, how it ties into their relationships, how thoughts, emotions, and behavior all tie together. And then after many years of doing that, I decided I need to go back and start teaching college again. So I did that. I went back to University of Maryland overseas program. And when I was in northern Italy, Aviano, Italy, 2004, I wrote the final theory, quantum field psychology, which is now published, which you have a copy of there. That's actually, I think, the second edition you have. But in any case, I wrote the final theory, which then explains all the modern day theories of psychology in a totally new paradigm, which actually scares a lot of psychologists, frankly, because it puts into form of mathematics and physics and says when you look at it from this point of view where the mind is energy, you can explain personality theories, all the different disorders like bipolar disorder, major depression, so forth, dysthymia, cyclothymia, psychosis, schizophrenia. All these aspects of the mind's functioning can be looked at in terms of energy fields, and we can look at the dynamics of how it works explained by topological mathematics, quantum physics, and so forth, and of course calculus. So I put it in that form, And what happened was there was a thundering silence because many folks said, what are you talking about? So I realized we had to make it a lot easier. So I then went back to school. I went back to film school to learn how to make films. I've been writing books for years. I had to figure out how to write books. I took a lot of classes in that earlier. I'd published a number of books. So I went back to film school, learned how to make films. And that, of course, is a huge process in itself. The first film was called Paradise Found in 2015, which is a short film, experimental film, about 27 minutes, about the discovery of the whole theory and how that worked. And then we made, of course, a documentary over the years called The Endless Question, which was just released very recently, which is a documentary, 2-hour documentary, where we interview a lot of folks. And I wish we had you in that film. I'm so sorry we missed you. We tried to connect in Florida, but we missed that. But we want to tell you with your great thoughts and so forth. We interviewed many folks in the field who understand these concepts. Of course, you do too. You're one of the few in the world. There's really a small handful of people to get this idea or these ideas. In the case, we interviewed a lot of these folks, put it together with some of the math and physics into theory. We also put in some ideas from Nikola Tesla, who talked about, he said that once we start to study the mind as energy, then we're going to make more progress in 10 years than we made in all human history beforehand. And of course, he was right, because then we start to see how things really work as energy, tied into spirit and so forth. So if people see the film, The Endless Question, which is now free on Amazon Prime, it's good if they also read the book, Quantum Field Psychology, which is also available on Amazon, because then it'll make more sense to them. The thing is that to read the book, though, Quantum Field Psychology, people need to probably have a background in math, physics, engineering, or medical doctors. A lot of medical doctors or dentists have enough scientific background to be able to figure it out and understand it. The problem is many folks in psychology or social work or nursing or whatever probably don't have the background in mathematics, and a lot of them don't like math. In fact, when I was in grad school, there were a lot of folks outside in the hallway having panic attacks before tests and statistics. Now, you're required to take this huge course in statistics. The first semester of the book is this thick. And you walk into class first day, the guy says, you should have read the first 89 pages of this book. And it's all formulas. I didn't care. I've been in math before in physics. I didn't care. But a lot of folks are like freaking out, you know. So a lot of psychologists don't like math. But you know, if you look at the overall paradigm, the whole universe is mathematical, right? The first science of the universe is mathematics. That's right. So once we start to see things in mathematical terms, it all shifts the paradigm to a totally new way of thinking. And our motivation in creating this theory in part was to create a theory which could help integrate the world together into one people, one race, you know, one thought, energy field where we all understand we're all part of each other. We're all tied to each other. We're all spiritual beings. We're truly all one with each other. And there's a theory of mathematics and physics that shows how that makes sense. So it's not just a bunch of gobbledygook, oh, we're all one being, you know, let's all sing around a campfire and hold hands and sing whatever. No, there's a scientific background to understand we're all connected to each other by energy, and it makes perfect sense to see it that way. And this theory also explains all the other major theories of psychology. That shocks people. It's the bridge theory. It is the bridge theory between science and spirituality that Deepak Chopra, all these guys today are looking for. I told Deepak, I saw him last in October of 2018 on the West Coast. I said, we have a bridge theory that links science and spirituality. He's going, well, I got to go to lunch. So he split. But I think, you know, nothing against him, not against him at all. I'm sure he's a great guy, you know. He's done a lot of fine work and so forth. But it's just, it kind of shocks people and scares people, and they probably don't believe it. I try to contact them later, so take a look at this, but they don't respond to you because, again, it scares them because it's a whole new theory a lot of folks are afraid of. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm trying to jump in there.